They have 3 back-to-backs left on the schedule. There's 9 games left this month, no back-to-backs. March 1st and 2nd, they play back-to-backs, but it's not a 3 and 4. They have 2 days off. March 23 and 24 is a back-to-back with a 3 and 4. April 5 and 6 is a back-to-back, 3 days off prior. So what you're looking at right now, it's conceivable Sam Ersson could start like 25 or more of the last 31 games.
Yeah.
Should they run him out as much as possible?
Yeah.
Without, if he, okay, I'm a little worn down. All right, buddy, take a day off.
Right.
But say he maintains general health. Should they run him out as much as possible or play it a little conservative considering right now he's the only NHL goaltender in the organization?
I mean, I said this last night. I think, to me, it really just boils down to the schedule. Like, there's 31 games and there's 31 games. If it's a 31-game schedule where everything's crammed together, there's a ton of back-to-backs, there's a lot of 4 games in a weeks, those sorts of things, then no. Then they shouldn't be playing him a ton of games. But, looking at the rest of February, it's not that jam-packed. And I don't see a reason why you purposely, I don't want them to run Sam Ersson into the ground. However, I believe that the way this schedule shapes up, they can play him a lot and not necessarily run him into the ground.
Yes.
That, to me, is the important thing. I don't want them overplaying him. But there are some benefits to the fact that they jam-packed 50 games into the pre-All-Star break schedule, and one of those benefits we didn't even know it was a benefit is that the rest of their slate is a little bit more spread out, which gives them the ability to play Ersson a lot and not have to worry too much about him just completely wearing down.
Yeah, that's my thought as well. The schedule is such that playing him in a lot of games doesn't seem like a thing that would wear him out. Also, he's not, a college goaltender or someone coming from directly from the AHL. He played in professional hockey league before.
Sure.
He knows what it is to play a lot of hockey. I'm not at all worried about. Obviously, you got to keep an eye on him. If at some point it looks like he tweaks something,
of
or
course.
whatever, then don't overdo it. But this isn't Brian Elliott. He can play 11 games in a
24 years
row.
old.
It's not going to be a problem.
I made that comparison last night. When they started Elliott, every game in the month of December, however many years ago that was, he was 10 or 11 years older than Sam Ersson is now.
Exactly.
That was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not good.
It is a good point, though, you make, Kelly, about the idea, because this is where you run into the concerns about making the playoff push and what negative impacts it could have, because you bring up the point about what if Ersson tweaks something. Now, if you're looking at it as we need to make the playoffs, Sam Ersson might be 90%, and they might say, well, 90% of Sam Ersson is still better than 100% of Cal Peterson, which is true.
Yes, it is.
However, I think you're absolutely right that if he tweaks something, the Flyers have to push the idea of make the playoffs at all costs out of their heads and play it safe with the guy who potentially could be their future number one for the rest of the decade. However, if he's healthy, if he doesn't tweak anything, and if Kim Dillaball does not think that he is exhausted, I see no reason why they shouldn't throw him out there quite a lot.
Also, if you make the playoffs, but ruin Sam Ersson because you're putting him out there at 85%,
That's
what's
nuts.
the point of even making the play? Because you're not going to go anywhere with Cal Peterson.
Exactly.
Although you never know.
I guess, hockey's
Goalies.
weird. But no, it's a really good point because
Lee.
if there is a situation where Ersson were to, you start seeing him get up a little slow. And then the Flyers just say, well, we had to keep playing because we're in a playoff race. That's not acceptable. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if they play him a lot of games as long as he's healthy and as long as he's not showing clear signs of fatigue and exhaustion.
I'm just looking at what he did over in Sweden. He had a 42-game season in the SHL 2020-21. Last year, 42 in the AHL, 12 in the NHL. So I was thinking about what his workload has been, and I forgot to combine AHL and NHL. So he made 54 appearances last year. He can probably handle it, and if he is going to be more than a tandem goalie, a really good backup, if he's going to be your franchise number one, you do have to find out eventually what kind of workload he can handle, right?
Yeah. And I think, too, you talked about last night about the idea of these games mattering. It's a great thing for evaluation. It's a great thing because it's not as if Morgan Frost is scoring a ton of points in March when the games don't matter, and basically these games are glorified AHL games.
Yeah, he did it, and the coaches were like, yeah, we still don't think he's that good.
Even Cam York.
Yeah.
You know, Tortorella said on multiple occasions that he didn't like Cam York's final quarter of last season. He wasn't sure he was a full-time NHL defenseman, and I wonder if part of that was like they thought he was kind of loafing around, the games didn't matter, whatever. It'll be interesting to see how Ersson responds mentally to being in a playoff race. And I'm not saying that, if he falters a little bit, then he just don't got it. But it will be interesting given the fact that this is an unexpected situation for him. I don't think anybody really expected that Sam Ersson, number one, was going to be the starter at this point. Number two, was going to be the starter for a team that was making a playoff push. So this was not something that he mentally prepared himself for. It'll be really interesting to see how he handles it, because if he handles it well, then suddenly you're like, oh man, they really might have their guy.
Charlie, you have said in the past, there are members of the Flyers organization, the front office, who believe, even if not in skill set, at least mentally, Sam Ersson has the makeup to be the guy, maybe even more so than Carter Hart, prior to this situation.
Yes.
How excited should we be about that? Because coming up at the end of this show, we're going to air the interview we just completed with Joe Watson off the air. And this wasn't like off the record. I don't think it's not like he has decision-making power or anything. He's just a legend.
Yeah.
He told us he believes Sam Ersson is the best goalie in the Flyers organization, including Carter Hart. How excited should we be? Because that, maybe just confirmation bias. And like you said, a week ago, it's like, well, maybe he doesn't have it. And now he played one good game against a good team. And I'm like, fuck yeah, getting my Ersson jersey.
Yeah, right.
My excitement level has risen even since last night, having just had that conversation and being reminded of what you've told me about other people discussing Ersson with you. I don't want to get everyone's expectations super high, especially my own. But I'm excited to see what this kid has.
Me too. And you're allowed to be excited. It's okay. You can be optimistic.
We've been hurt before.
I know.
I think it's going to be fun.
Goaltending.
I think it's going to be fun to see, because there is an element here. And look, I know people want to see the Flyers make the playoffs because playoff hockey's fun. But there's an element here over these next 2 months, month and a half, however long. I guess 2.5 months, right, is where we're at, because it ends in mid-April. There's an element here where the Flyers, and I think this is kind of the message that Jonesy and Briere have tried to get across when they've talked to people like us, to the media in general. They're kind of playing with house money right now, because if they make the playoffs, it's like, man, no one expected this.
Yep.
And if they don't, the response is going to be, well, you're rebuilding. You picked up an extra first-round pick at the trade deadline anyway, and hey, you know what? We're ahead of schedule. So there is an element here where this wasn't expected, and everything you get here moving forward is kind of gravy, which there's still pressure. Obviously, these guys want to win. It's a competitive environment. But there is sort of an element of, if you do well, great. If you don't, it's not the end of the world.
And that's you're also answering a question that we didn't even really know we were going to get an answer to. Now, it's because of some absolutely terrible circumstances, but in sports terms, whether it's injury or otherwise, there is always that next man up mentality, and you're going to get an answer now, at least in the short term. I don't know what the hell. Guys have great seasons, guys have bad, but you're going to get at least a short-term answer on what Sam Ersson can be and can handle. And that's in a rebuild, you want answers on shit.
Yeah.
We came in okay, Farabee last year finished the season pretty strong, I thought, but like we said, all right, it's fake games. Now we're getting an answer on Joel Farabee. He's got as many even strength points as the best players in the league.
It's a real good answer.
It's, are we going to get answers on Sam Ersson? That's we could be in that rare have your cake and eat it too rebuild, and we're finding out answers about the rebuild, and we might get free hockey, basically.
Yes.
We could get extra hockey.
It can be both.
I know that no one wants to hear it, but 86 games would be more fun than 82. No? Like,
Yes.
maybe not for Charlie.
Let's say 87. Let's at least get one
Yeah, let's
win.
get one win.
I would like to win
No
a game.
sweeps.
I'm just saying that would be the bare minimum, would be 4 extra.
Yes.
And I don't know, in the first year PHLY, like getting to cover some playoff hockey would be pretty fucking cool, man.
We all silly like the mayor.